Cricket Life Stories with me, Neel Khagram. Today we're joined by Liddle. Chris, we're at Northamptonshire on this sunny day. You're going to talk about fast bowling. How's it all going, first of all?
Yeah, great, thanks. I mean, it's back end of the year, so we've got some tired fast bowlers, but they're managing to truck in and plug away for us, which has been fantastic. But yeah, you know, you caught us on a nice sunny day in Northampton, so I'm looking forward to chatting a bit about fast bowling.
Yeah, as we said, we're going to talk about some of your tips and techniques to bowl fast for all cricketers. Before we get into the specifics, do you want us to talk about your philosophies when it comes to coaching fast bowling first?
Yeah, I think first and foremost you have to build a relationship with the person that you're working with. You've got to gain their trust, because bowling's not easy, and you're going to question a few things, or you're going to be working on a few things, or breaking down the action, or trying to push them to do things a bit harder or a bit faster. So you've got to build a relationship with them and build their trust, and then it's all about a strong basics game. I firmly believe that having good basics in place will help you develop all the other skills around it. But as bowlers, we've still got to be able to go back to hitting the top of off. That means you need a reliable action that repeats itself well in terms of your positioning at the crease, strong base, high release point, all that type of stuff. So pretty simple in a way, but obviously it's the simple stuff that's sometimes the hardest to do.
Yeah, can't wait to get into this technical masterclass for fast bowling. Let's go.
So if we go into the run-up and start speaking about the run-up, and I firmly believe that the run-up's a very natural thing. It's got to be specific to the bowler itself. And if we're talking like young cricketers, I mean, if we talk older cricketers, they've probably all got the run-up sorted, and there might be a few tweaks and stuff in terms of taking a bit of length out of it and shortening it a little bit so you can be snappy at the crease. But if we're talking youngsters who's trying to find out what run-up's natural for them, the easiest thing that's ever been done is you run with your eyes closed and feel and bowl when your body feels ready to bowl. Some I've done with youngsters in the past, and they've been trying to find out where's the best time for them to bowl, in terms of they've built up all this energy to bowl and then release it. All we've done before is just put a cone down on the floor to start off from, run with your eyes closed. When you feel ready to bowl, just bowl the ball. It doesn't matter where the ball goes, because we're in an open field. It doesn't matter where the ball goes, but it's more the feel that they've built up all this energy in their run-up and they feel ready to bowl the ball. And obviously with that run-up is if you're starting them from the same spot all the time, you've got to mark where they're landing each time, all right? So it might be a couple of times where they're a bit long, a bit short of the first mark or whatever, but over time it'll gradually be that they're landing in a similar place all the time. So just marking cones or little markers each time, and after say 10 balls, 12 balls, or whatever it might be, you'll get a constant of roughly where they're landing all the time, which will then be their run-up that they can mark out. So if we talk about the approach to the crease, and when we get to the crease, you're going to get a lot of different things in terms of lads jumping up high and landing back foot side on, and obviously front foot at the crease. You want a strong base at the crease, whether they're side on or front on, whether they run through the crease or jump. There's going to be variance all the time. The reason why bowlers jump in general is to get the feet in position, which means your foot's more landing side on or slightly mid, to then get that solid base. All right, so it's worth looking at that. It's worth looking at how their back foot lands. Do they need to jump that high? Do they need to jump at all? If they're front on, it normally means they can run through the crease a little bit, because they don't have to get the back foot in position. So whatever you do is, if you are mid, I was always mid as a bowler, is landing, and it's then where this front leg goes. So is this front leg aligned to the target of where you want to go to the batsman, or are you getting slightly crossed? If you're slightly crossed, it might mean your top half's got to rotate out to get it where you want it to go. So it's all about the alignment. So whatever happens down the bottom here will have a reaction of what goes on at the top, all right? So look at feet alignment, where they land. Is it nicely aligned and it's going forward, and then from there then you look upwards at the release point, yeah? So you look up at the release point. Is the release point nice and high and over the top, which is perfect? Are they falling away a little bit? Again, if the feet are aligned but you're falling away up here, is it the front arm, and what's that doing? So it's about breaking down the action into different things. Obviously if they land slightly cross but their release point's perfect and they're bowling perfect, do we need to intervene, or just leave them and work on skill in terms of, we've got bowlers here that do get slightly tight to the crease and swing the ball beautifully, but then get lined up because they're swinging it consistently. Then it's a challenge for them, is actually coming a bit more mid-crease and keeping the swing and drawing the batsman out into edging the ball, or drawing them away from defending the stumps by creating an angle. Again, it's all different things you can work with the bowler, depending on what they do, what skill they deliver. But yeah, I'd always advise to look downwards first at the feet, and then work up. So another thing you know, you can look at is head position on release. Again, you know, we talk from the ground up, but head position on release, you still want things going forward. You still want to know that my release point's high, my head position's forward. You know, you could look and you might see people off to the side like this, and then it's, you know, your release point might be slightly off. You might come over the perpendicular and push it because you're falling out that way, or you could be slinging and come round it because, again, your heads came out. So a good practice is always really trying to force your head forward on release, which then brings everything else over and over the top. Again, you know, we speak about the head being one of the heaviest parts of the body. If you can get the feeling of that going forward on release, everything else has got to follow in terms of your body, and your follow through has got to follow. Another thing we speak about and look out for is obviously the non-bowling arm and the position that gets itself into. A lot of people are different. A lot of people, you know, get across themselves, get open, stuff like that, but it's more the pathway it goes on. So if you're approaching the crease and you know, you get into your action, the arm's coming up, is the arm still going towards where you want it to go? And does it follow that pathway down and into the body and out through the back? It doesn't have to go massively out through the back, but it's got to still stay tight. You don't want it coming out to the side and forcing you to lose your wrist and your accuracy with the bowling arm. So you just want it to come through nice and then drag you forward. So whatever you're doing with the ball here and you load up, this arm's coming up, but it's coming up and forcing you forward, and then with that you're then pulling it in. You look at some of the best bowlers in the world, they sort of like grab you and grab the batsman and pull it in there, which then forces the top half. We talk about the top half momentum going forward. That keeps everything going forward there, so you're not falling out and losing it and having to push and pull with your bowling arm. You're actually pulling in, and again with that, it's forcing everything forward where you want it to go, down the wicket towards the target. So if we're talking about wrist position or seam position in the bowling action, depending on what you're going to do, some people obviously straight up, just to try and really rip down the back of the ball, get the seam nice and bolt upright. Some people just offset it a little bit, so if I was a lefty and I was looking to swing it back, I'd just offset it a little bit so the shiny side was here in my hand, just so it was more pronounced and it was going to catch and swing in, hopefully. You've also got the other bowlers that will just predominantly bowl wobble balls. So for me, if I was going, as a lefty going to bowl a wobble ball, I'd offset the seam slightly, just so as it was coming out of the hand, you'll see it'll just wobble side to side a little bit. And that's what you want. That's when you see people getting nip and movement laterally out the wicket, that's what they tend to bowl. So the ball just wobbles slightly side to side, just catches or won't catch it and just skid on a little bit. So again, it asks a few questions of the batsman. But that's been a very productive ball over the years, especially in England, with wickets that just offer a little bit of seam movement. It's just being able to wobble the ball and nip it. So there's obviously different stages of the game and what the ball's doing for you as a bowler. If you're finding the ball's not doing anything, it's quite a flat wicket and you want to bowl stump to stump and you're bowling a left-hander as a right-handed bowler, so a lot of people come round and just target the stumps and then set a field accordingly. You've also got them days where the ball's just not doing what you want it to do, in terms of you might just be pushing it in, things aren't working. Sometimes you don't have to fight that, you can come up with another plan. So if you are just pushing it across the left-hander slightly too much as a right arm bowler, again you can come round and then attack the stumps and keep that movement that you're getting, that movement away from the movement away from the left-hander, and keep that going rather than trying to fight it out in the middle. So sometimes you've got to adapt to what's going on in the game and what's happening for you in the game in terms of what the ball's doing. Go with it and still make it an attacking option. Sometimes you've just got to, you know, judging by how the game situation's going, the wicket's gone flat, I've got to change the field, I've got to have straight fields, I've got to have people in front of the bat, I've got to bowl stump to stump. That's when you start using angles on the crease and stuff, whether it's over or round, just to make sure they're hitting the ball to where you want to go. And it's just a patience game. That's the beauty of county cricket, 4-day cricket, even white ball cricket to an extent. You've got to try and get the batsman hitting the ball where you want it to go. So we're just going to go on about variations in white ball cricket. You've got your Yorkers, your slow balls, your bumpers, all very important deliveries that you need in your armoury when it comes to bowling in white ball cricket and limited overs cricket. We speak a lot about bowlers still being able to hit the top of the stump, still being attacking, but then the skill is, if I go to a change up, if I go to a slow ball, am I still able to hit that rough area that I've been hitting, you know, with my stock delivery? Am I still able to hit like the top of the stumps and challenge it and force a mistake by not giving too much away in terms of a big change in what we're doing. If we can get enough pace off the ball, that's great, but again, it's the release point. You still want the release point high with your slow balls, whether you go to a cutter and get really over the top to generate some bounce out the wicket. You don't want to give them any sort of visuals that something drastic is changing. There's change in your action to actually bowl that slow ball or anything. So disguise is important. So if your release point's roughly the same for a slower ball, you're still over the top, but you're able to adjust your fingers and get really over the top of it to generate some bounce out the wicket. That's fantastic. Again, with a bumper, you've got to really commit. You've got to really get over the top of that, over the top of the ball and really hit the wicket. You don't want the bouncer only getting this high. You still want it to get up here, because this is what batsmen train for these days and putting it out the park. So your bumper's really got to be on the money and get it nice and high. Again, that comes from a solid base, really being over the top, pulling down with your front arm, getting right over it and really hitting the wicket hard. Don't try and force too hard and then lose this side of the body and then have to push it along, because they're the ones that don't quite get up as high and end up sort of this high, whereas you want it to be up here. If we're talking Yorkers, it's a very specific ball to bowl. You've got to find a way of working out what's your best angle to execute a Yorker. Don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be afraid, if you're a right armer, to come round the wicket, and it might mean I've got to access a bit or use a bit more of my body, but I can actually get a Yorker in better to a right-handed batter from this line, from around the wicket. You've got to explore things and see. Don't just try and force your way just to do one way, which is over the wicket, the traditional way. You've got to explore different angles, different approaches to actually find out, with the action that I've got, what's the best way of executing that Yorker. A lot of people talk about trying to get a little bit slingy and trying to get it in there. If that's the case and you find that works for you, I urge you that afterwards you do a lot of repair work, and you do a lot of repair work with looking after your stock delivery and getting back over the top, because you don't want to get into the habit of being low and slinging it in to try and get the Yorker in, and then when you go back to hit the top of the stumps, you've still got this sort of action going on. You still want to get over the top, you still want to repair your best delivery.